Hey there, it's Red. Welcome back to the garden. Today we're going to walk through the entire process of planting what you see here, the succulent painting. To fill in the entire picture frame, I needed about 400 to 500 individual succulent cuttings. So I went around my yard and took cuttings off of a lot of the plants you see here, as well as some that I got from my clients' houses. Once I got them cut off of the plants, it was time to start prepping them to be able to put straight into the frame. The peat moss on the frame is only about 2 inches thick at its deepest point, so I needed to make sure that the stem of each cutting was just the right height, so that way when I put it into the peat moss, it wouldn't stick out too much or fall out once the painting was put upright. I also went through and took off any of the dead leaves or the leaves that were kind of flopping down. I wanted each succulent cutting to be a really nice tight rosette, like a freshly bloomed rose. It ended up taking me about 2.5 hours to prep all of the cuttings. I saved a bunch of the healthy leaves off of the succulents so that way I could put them in a portion of my yard so that hopefully they will begin to propagate and just create more plants for me so I don't have to buy plants when I want to do this again. With all the prepping done, let's take inventory of all the cuttings we have. I separated them into different colors, different shapes, and different varieties so that way as I'm going I can just kind of pluck and go and put them in the frame and not have to think too deeply about, where did I put this one? What one am I going to use now? I found this gorgeous wooden picture frame leaning against a trash can a few months ago, and I've been thinking for so long that I need to do something with it. I put some wooden planks on the back side of it, put a layer of peat moss, and then I put chicken wire stapled to it all to hold the peat moss down, and then I added more peat moss on top to create like a lasagna layer of stability. So to start off, I'm going to start with the top of the painting and start to fill in the sky with some sunset colors and some blue colors. To make sure that these plants have the highest chance of success, I'm going to try to put the stem at a 45-degree angle so the rosette is pointing up and out, so that way when the painting is brought upright, everything doesn't just fall out immediately. There will be some extra support along with the chicken wire and the dense peat moss in there. With this up close view, you can really see what I mean by that. I use the clippers to get into the peat moss and make sure that I am below the chicken wire, and then I will slide the rosette cutting into there and then re-tamp down the peat moss to make sure everything is nice and tight and secure. And the great thing about all the prep I did with the cuttings beforehand is that as I'm going and filling in the frame, I don't have to sit there and cut the stems to length or cut off any of the dead leaves. I can just grab them and place them in and really just have my mind focus on the overall look that I'm trying to go for and not the little tedious tasks of cutting and clipping. Intermixing all the different shades and hues of blues and purples, reds, oranges, and yellows really achieves the goal of creating a sky at golden hour versus one solid color that just kind of encompasses the whole top of the painting. The overall look that I'm trying to achieve is a painting of a landscape. So I'm going to have aspects of the sky, I'll have aspects of a waterfall and a tree and a hill covered with different bushes and shrubs. And of course, that's the look I'm going for, so it's a very much of a mental practice to see that. It's not going to be super clear, but hopefully you get that feeling when you look at it at the end and you don't just see a bunch of splotches and things like that. I hope you see delineated individual portions of the frame, and I hope it speaks to you like it speaks to me. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel to see more of the projects that I do. And if you haven't already, please leave a comment down below for the sake of engagement, even if it's just a one word, a thumbs up, anything like that. Interaction with my videos really helps to push my videos out to a larger audience, especially for such a small creator like myself. So I hope you enjoy the video as we walk and talk through different portions of the painting, and then also just kind of speed up certain parts, but you can still see the time and intensity that's involved to make such a big arrangement like this. So as I was about half an hour into the project and really focusing on the sky, I shift my attention over to the side, and I wanted to create something with some trailing succulents and something that'll maybe bring some texture to the painting itself and move away from these sedums and echeverias. And my mind immediately went to, let's do something that looks like a waterfall, something that's coming off of a mountain that you might not actually see in the painting, but that's just kind of coming into the side of the frame. To achieve that look, I decided to use some of the fishhook Seneca cuttings that I prepped. These cuttings came from a plant that I've been growing for about 9 years now. The plant has always sat in its many different pots it's been in at the top of a staircase or a couple of steps that always go to the front door of my house I live in at the time, whether it's when I lived on a 2-story unit, they're at the top of the stairs and draped down like 9 steps, or now there's 2 steps going up to my front patio and they just kind of drape down the couple steps. Much smaller than it used to be, but I just love the look of it. They've always kind of represented a waterfall within my garden, so I think it's only right to continue that representation here in the succulent frame. The part of the cutting that I'm putting into the peat moss is really small, thin, and dainty, so I'm constantly having to make sure that I give it enough give in there so that way it doesn't crack in half when I stick it in there, and then also make sure it's deep enough so that it's secure and doesn't fall out with all the weight that the trailing portion of the plant is gonna really pull on it when I bring the painting upright. To avoid having this side of the succulent frame just be completely covered in the Seneca fish hooks, and in order to not have that area be really flat and one-dimensional, I'm going to add in some Aeoniums in there and some other jade plants throughout the waterfall to add some texture and some undulations throughout this really flat succulent that over time will not really grow out and just continue to grow down. With the sky and the sunset in place, it's time to move on to the landscape portion of the painting. As I was putting this all together, I realized it'd be really cool to have a little bit of real wood incorporated into the project itself, so I decided to use this cutting from a manzanita bush that I've had in my yard for a while as to represent the trunk of a pine tree that will be kind of the focal point of the left side of this frame. I really have to make sure that I can get in there and secure it behind the chicken wire so it doesn't pop off once I bring the painting upright. And then I will use a green aeonium on the top to represent the canopy of the tree, and then some smaller aeoniums on the side to kind of represent the branches going off from the side. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it's really cool and really diversifies this painting a lot more than if I were to have just used succulents throughout it all. After finalizing the positions of the branches of the tree, I decided to add a little bit more of the sky behind it to kind of really make sure that the tree itself pops. It doesn't get lost in the rest of the greenery that's going to take over as I start to fill out the hill and the bushes on the hill. I'm so glad that I prepped a lot of the cuttings beforehand, so that way I could just start to create the painting and not keep stopping and cutting things and having to trim things to size. I can just grab and go the colors I need and then not lose my train of thought. To finish off the tree area, I'm going to add in some curled jade plants around the base of it. This will be really the only area that I use these curled jade plants. I want to make sure to really make this portion of the painting be its own and not have it get lost in the entire hillside that I'm about to create. And then once I finish putting in all the curled jades, I'm going to add some more of the blues and the red succulents to bring the sky further down behind the tree to make sure that it really pops, while also trying to make sure that there's not a lot of really straight lines throughout this painting. I want to make sure that it feels natural and that it flows. Now we only have about a quarter of the painting left, so what I'm doing here is I'm using the jade to delineate the edge between the hill that's going to kind of be encompassing this portion of the succulent frame and the sunset up top and the tree area to the left. To me, jade is a very basic and kind of overused succulent. It grows like weeds here in San Diego, but I really do love using it intentionally in arrangements and on projects like this because it adds just such a nice texture and it's very readily available, so I can use a lot of it without feeling guilty. And what I mean by not feeling guilty about using a lot of it is I can decimate a bush of jade for a lot of cuttings. I don't have to then go out and buy a bunch of succulents, and that hurts my pocketbook a little bit. And I also don't have to completely decimate some of my more unique echeverias and different things like that to fill up a lot of space of an arrangement. Let me know down below your thoughts on jade plants. Do you think they're overused? Are they some of your favorite? Drop a comment. So with the tree in place and the hill outlined by the jade plants, I'm starting to add some succulents to represent bushes or smaller trees on the hill in the foreground of the landscape painting. These succulents look way different than anything else we've already used so far, and I really hope that this makes them pop, and they'll definitely grow bigger than everything else around it to really give it that feel that you're supposed to look at these and these are something different and not just a filler to fill in the background of the image. So to achieve the look of the bushes, I'm using different types of aloes, different types of haworthias, different types of aeoniums, like this variegated aeonium that I think is just super cool. These cuttings are definitely some of the biggest cuttings we've used so far, and I'm having to make bigger holes and cut some of the chicken wire that's below the peat moss to really make sure these succulents stay in there and have a nice secure place while they get rooted. And oh man, do I hope a lot of these root. I really hope I don't lose a lot of cuttings as these things get situated to their new home. To round out the planting of the hill, we're going to add some burro's tail, so they'll eventually trail down the bottom of the painting, and then we'll fill it in with some ionium and some other things. So stick around until the end of the video to see the final product. As I'm going through and filling in the last little bits of elephant shade around the bottom of the plant to represent the little grasses that are growing, as well as kind of going around the rest of the painting to fill in any blank spots, using any extra succulents I may have. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sticking around and watching the entire video. If you haven't already, please leave a comment down below talking about the favorite part of the painting you had, maybe the favorite succulent that I used today, maybe something you would have done different, anything really. Liking videos and commenting on videos, especially for a small maker just like myself, really helps to push my videos out there to other people, so every little bit can help. Even leaving an emoji down there just for the sake of engagement would be awesome. I'm gonna leave the video at normal speed to let you really take in all the thought and intention and time it took to place each individual plant. Overall, this took me about 3 hours of planting, 2 hours to build the frame, and then another 2 hours of prepping all the succulents beforehand. So long project overall, but I'm super stoked with how it turned out, and I can't wait to get this thing up and out in the garden.